Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 32 of Rise Up the Podcast. I'm here with your host, Greg the Beast Gurenlian, and we are without Scotty Rodgers today. He's grinding out there with his goalies, doing clinics, making that bread, so we won't give him too much shit for missing. But, Greg, man, great to see you. You have a good week?
Yeah, man, good to see you too. Yeah, good week. We're all hands on deck. I-95 Cup, team-based championship that we do every year, sponsored by Cascade, FOA. 8 different states we pick teams and a tryout, which I hate having to pick teams, as you know. Like, tryouts suck. But we got our 6-man roster, and we're ready to rock and roll. And then this weekend, actually, Sibes, I'm going to be heading down to Knoxville.
Nice.
My brother-in-law lives down there with my nephews, and they're about the same age as my kids. So we're gonna head on down there on Thursday and come back Sunday, man. What have you been up to?
Nothing. Actually, I should say nothing much. I had a big wedding last weekend. My girlfriend's older sister married John Urbank. Shout out John, and shout out Georgetown Lacrosse. So a lot of good Georgetown buddies of his were there, and we had a fun time. It was a beautiful wedding at West Hampton Country Club in Long Island. So it was a blast. Great weekend, great times. But back in New York City now. Busy couple weeks coming up. Buzzing down to Annapolis in a couple weeks. We talked to Coach Amplo about it. I'm going to a wedding down at the Naval Academy, which I'm pumped about. And then that's it for my wedding cycle for the summer, and it'll pick back up again in the fall. But it's starting to get warm out. I'm trying to pencil in some time at the beach, I'll tell you that.
Yes, absolutely, man. Isn't it crazy how that, like, just around March when it starts to get slightly lighter out longer, your mood just switches from like I'm depressed for no reason to wow, every day is better.
Especially in the city. It's like I walk by a bar and I'm like, oh, do I want to pop in for a beer? It's over 70 degrees.
Yes, good for you. But yo, what a weekend we had, man. Great weekend.
So I caught a couple of the games. We have action-packed recap for the PLL. Crazy weekend. Some great games. Very entertaining. Some great numbers coming out of how many people watched it. Which is very promising. It's great to see that for the PLL and their continued growth. We love that. This weekend got me super excited for the rest of the PLL season. It just showed how much better it's getting, the product's getting each year. We have a lot to get into, but is there anything else you want to just touch upon before we kind of get into our interview with Coach Amplo?
Not really. I just want to shout out my buddy Nolan Anyguess. I coached him out in New England. He finished his career at Stevenson playing for the great Paul Canabine. He started Apex Athletics, strength training clothing, and I just want to give him a shout out. Good luck. Love the hat. He sent me a bunch of swag, so shout out to him and Apex.
Hell yeah. Shout out Apex. Thanks for sending him the hat. I like wearing hats too, as you can see. I can shoot you my address. Hit me up in the DMs. But without further ado, we'd love to turn it over to our interview with Coach Amplo before we get into our PLL recaps. This was a blast of an interview. He kicked my ass for a couple of years when he was coaching at Marquette, but great chopping it up with this guy and talking about USA coming up this summer. A very, very special welcome to the podcast, the coach at the Naval Academy, Joe Amplo, former coach at Marquette, and he will be coaching Team USA this summer at San Diego, which is one of the many things we want to talk to you about. So, Coach Amplo, pleasure having you on the podcast. It's great seeing you.
Highlight for me, fellas. Great to be on. Awesome to be here tonight. Thanks.
Dude, I was fired up. So I met Joe like twice. The first time I met Joe was over the phone. And I think it was 2014, and I get a call from a number I never had, I didn't know. And it's, hey, Greg, it's Joe Amplo at Marquette. You want to tell me what the happened with Ben Williams? I was like, what are you talking about? So I thought he was coming here, and now he's going to Syracuse. I'm like, yo, I coached the kid a couple times. Like, I don't know what to tell. And that was my first time, dude. I got off the phone. I was shook to the core.
Yeah, well, that didn't help because the kid still went to Syracuse and won like 2,000 faceoffs. So, and we didn't win a faceoff for 4 years out there. So I'm still pissed at you for that one.
Yeah, you were. And then in 2004, no, it wasn't 2004. What was the year that you guys first – it was Casey Powell's last time we were down in Florida, IMG. What was it, 2016?
Yeah, 16 or maybe the January 15 January 16, I think. January 16.
Yeah, it was January 16, and Sibes, I had gone down there, and Casey Powell was still on the team, and that was like his last hurrah with Team USA, and I was assuming that it was going to be mine too. And then I meet Joe, Seth, Tierney, and the big guy, Dino, and they're the coaching staff. And we spent an awesome weekend together. I go back home to my wife. I go, I think I want to make another run at this thing. And she was not having it, dude. She was like, she's like, we're having kids now. You get to pick. You either play MLL one more year or you're going to play World Games. I'm like, World Games. These guys are awesome. Yeah. And, it was like a breath of fresh air, man.
That weekend was, that solidified, how special the U.S. thing is for all of us, right? And Casey did such a good job of, he really made it, I thought his legacy was cemented with how he handled that weekend, especially with the next generation of guys. It was really special for me and all of us.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, man. And then that really set a tone, and it was a different feel. It was like a family feel. It was pretty cool.
It's good. Thanks for saying that, Greg. I appreciate that, man.
Sure, man. No, I appreciate it. If it wasn't for you guys, I would have hung it up, man. I would have been done with USA. So that was you guys gifted that to me, man.
We're glad you did.
Tell us about the process, because now this is the second time you're doing this. Tell us about the process. What did you guys learn from the first time around?
I think the thing we learned is, you're trying to build a team, and we can talk about that experience in Israel for hours and how that team was formed in such a short amount of time, and the memories that we all share and the bonds that I think that were created. And for us, it just solidified what's important to this staff when we go to our colleges and how we were kind of raised in this sport. Certainly for me and Seth with Dino, team is the most important thing. And you just want a collection of guys who are going to put that first, and quite frankly, going into the thing the first time, we didn't know if we were capable of doing that, because you've got all these personalities, you included, and you don't know how guys are going to buy in. Heck, man, I remember the phone call that Dino made to you on the Saturday night before we announced the team on Sunday, and the conversation in that room when we were picking the team was, do we believe that Greg is going to buy into accepting a role? And I remember him calling you and you saying the absolute right thing. And then I think one of my greatest memories of the whole event, the whole experience, I don't think I've ever said this to you before, is in the final game. It was like a passing of the torch from you to Trev. Trev goes out to take that last face off, and he goes out there because you pushed him out there, and everything we were trying to create as a team, that's one of the moments that I look to, and I get chills thinking about it, as whether we won or lost that game, I felt in my heart we built a team, and that was an example of that. And to me, there's no more satisfaction as a coach to get guys who, want to be great and have individual accolades and goals, but when push comes to shove, in the moment, are going to put the team first. And you're one of the guys who absolutely exemplified that. So, yeah, I think that's what we learned, and that you can do it. And there's guys out there that will and want to be a part of that, and will buy in and do anything they can to be a part of this just awesome experience.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it was cool because the collection was so balanced between those of us who felt like we failed in 2014 and the new talent that we knew could get us over the hump in 2018. And yeah, Trevor, I got to give him credit too, because he did the same thing in our first game against Canada. In our first game, I got hot and he was like, "No, you keep going out there." And that trickled, everybody did that, and yeah, it was really, really special. So, that's why
in that first game, did you want to drop the gloves when they called the illegal stick? Because,
No, what I have to admit, when they called the illegal stick, I remember running over to Dino, and after I smoked Snyder, I come down, I take a shot, and he's screaming for a illegal stick from the time I beat him to the time I shot the ball. And the ref grabs it out of my hand. It's covered in sand. And Dino goes, what do you think? I go, that shit's illegal, man. I go, that thing is tied in a figure eight. It is done. The best part, we look down the sideline because you're always worried about retaliation when you call a stick check. Snyder's already holding a warp.
Oh, God.
They handed him a warp off the sideline, Sibes. It looks like he was holding a tennis racket. with like a little halo over his head.
I give him credit,
I
man.
couldn't even be mad. I was like, that's the most brilliant shit I've ever seen.
Yeah, tip your cap there. Tip your cap.
Yeah.
Good job.
That's really funny, and Greg talks about it a lot on this podcast. The process and how Team USA has really done a great job of perfecting this. It's not just a 1 year thing where it's a big build up. You get to know the team. You whittle the team down to your roster you're going to go with. Talk about this year and how difficult some of those decisions were, and then also I'd love to hear about. I think what I was super excited to see was a kid like Charlie Bertrand come out and make the team. Where he played at Merrimack College when they were D2. He played 1 year at UVA, and then he kind of blew up on the scene in the PL, and he's just continuing to get better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first, let me just touch on the process. I mean, I give all the credit in the world to Coach Dino. When he took this job over, his goal was to leave USA Lacrosse in a better place than when he took it over, and to establish a culture that would exist so that the next staff, whoever it was, whether it was us or the next group, was just going to walk in and the organization was going to be in a really good place. I mean, when you think about like the book Good to Great and Level 5 leaders, like John Danowski is a Level 5 leader, man. And because the next group of coaches that are going to take this thing over for the next run, the process is in place and it's established, and they don't just have to turn the lights on, but there's a rubric for it, and that's all credit to him. This year was tough because there's a lot of new faces, and there's a lot of guys who I don't want to say are unproven in the international game, but they haven't had the experience. I think guys like Jesse Bernhardt and Michael Earhart and Rob Pinnell, Tommy Schreiber, Trev, the guys, Jack Kelly, the guys who were with us prior, they did such a good job with leadership through the process and mentoring the young guys and making them comfortable. And that was really exciting to see, and those guys, I think, established their place not only on our team, but just in the USA Lacrosse organization. They really took it personal that they wanted this thing to operate the right way. And you saw them building a culture within their team through the tryouts, which is tough to do because those guys are trying to fight for a roster spot themselves. And I give Dino credit again. Like, he gave myself and Seth and Charlie autonomy on making decisions, and Seth Tierney really loves watching Charlie Bertrand in the PLL. He really believes in him, and Charlie had some really good scrimmages in our events. He just showed up when the lights were on, so with Seth's blessing and Charlie's performance when it mattered most in those tryouts, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I get real defensive to the lacrosse Twitter when they reacted to the team and everything. And I was just like, guys, like, oh, Billy had 30 goals in the PL. I'm like, no one gives a shit. Like, you have to be a cog in the machine. And if you're not willing to be the perfect cog in the machine, then it doesn't matter, because international lacrosse, like you said, learning how to play international lacrosse is always the Achilles heel for Team USA. Right. Because Canada plays those field rules, and they can scrimmage anybody anytime they want. The only time we ever feel like we play international rules is when we're in a Worlds game, or if we can convince Canada to come play a friendly. Yeah. So it puts us at a deficit. But I thought, Sibes will tell you, we're huge Bertrand fans on this show. I think he is a great fit. And I always refer back to 2018. We're like, oh, you don't have a left-handed attackman. You can't win this. Alrighty. Well, so, yeah, I mean, tell us
Tommy
about...
Schreiber cuts to when he's supposed to have the stick in his left hand. He keeps the stick in his right hand. It worked out,
It seemed to work out. I have a gold medal that's pretty pumped about that. But, yeah, the one thing that I think people are interested in, because people tune in every 4 years for like 2 scrimmages online, and then they make like these assumptions. Tell us about, like, throughout the process, like those scrimmages, like what percentage of that does that go into your mindset on a final roster type of spot?
For those final decisions,
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you damn well that Zach Goodrich had to play his best probably scrimmage that night down in Florida to make the team. And that was one decision point for us that, and I put the pressure on him. I went up to him beforehand. I said, look, the lights are on you. The spotlight's on you. We need to see you play your best, because I wanted to see how he responded in that moment with that pressure on him, right? Because he's going to feel that, right? Hopefully the last game of the tournament, and he stepped up and performed. So the last scrimmages are really those minute decisions. Okay, it's like, all right, we've got 5 short sticks, and you want to bring 4, and let's spotlight on these 2. You've got 6 poles or 7 poles, and you're trying to decide who's that guy who can be the inside player. Who's going to do it better? Who do the other players play better with? Right?
Yeah.
And you watch body language and you listen, because Greg, you've got 2 weeks to be around these guys, and to try and develop like a depth of a relationship, it's really hard. So, for guys who understand each other on a human level, to me, those are the things that matter most. It's not really the performance aspect, because you could take any one of those 50 or so guys and they all have the ability, but it's how do they gel together, right? Who's going to listen to each other? Who's going to call each other out? Who's willing to step up and be a leader? To me, those are the biggest decisions we tried to make, and I hope we got it right. But I just feel like, for us, that's part of that team dynamic. You're trying to build a team with really talented lacrosse players, and there might be guys who have done more and been in bigger moments or scored bigger goals. But for us, it was who plays well together the way that we want to play, right? And other coaches may have different opinions, but it's, we're blessed to be coaching this team, but we're coaching the team, so we've got to coach it the way we want to coach it.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody – you think you know what a USA-Canada game is. You think you know. And then you're in it. There's literally nothing like it. The amount of pressure and tension every second of that game is unlike anything I've ever played in. And you need to know that if I say something to one of my teammates, that it's going to be received the right way at the right time, or else this whole thing doesn't work. And I think people just don't understand the stock that goes into the trust of the person you're with, rather than, can that guy shoot the ball 100 miles an hour? Yeah, almost all of them can.
Right.
But, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a reason why Scotty's not on the show tonight, because we just don't trust him. We don't
trust Scotty.
Just don't trust him.
You can't. You can't depend on him.
You can't depend on him.
So I had no idea that Scotty helped out with you guys at Marquette. But
that's where the story begins.
I coached youth lacrosse up in Pelham, New York, with Connor Gately, and so Gates and I were at the banquet last night and having a couple. He's like, "Yeah, Scotty still has me blocked on Instagram because I said his bicep looks small in one of his posts," which was 9 years ago.
I was going to have the tank top on for Scotty to make sure he knew that my biceps were bigger than his. But
I think he caught wind of that. That's why he
would have kicked himself off the show and started doing bicep curls because he's so self-conscious. So I didn't want to do that to him, right? I didn't want to ruin his self-esteem because he's such a fragile human being.
Yes. And it's a shame he couldn't be here to defend himself. What a shame.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I don't know how many we could actually tell on this show, but there are a lot of sides. We'll sit down with Joe at some point. We'll have a beer, and man, you're gonna have some stories.
I can't imagine what the hell he did out in Milwaukee.
Sibes, can I give you one clean
please.
version? All right. My children, they still hold Scotty in such high regard, right? My kids grew up with him for a couple of years. He lived in our basement, and we had an unfinished basement at the time in Wisconsin. And my wife would have, friends over, and Scotty would come up and, late on a Tuesday night, he'd come up to get a drink of water. He'd be in his tank top, and all these, suburban moms like, whoa, who's this, right? So Scotty boosted his self-esteem. Well, one night we're putting the kids to bed, and I used to make Scotty read to my children, and he's reading a bedtime story. And he's like, Joe, I gotta shave my head. He's like, there's no sink in the basement. Can I do it up here? So I'm like, sure, do it up there, but don't let Jen, my wife, see, because she'll kill you, right? So I go downstairs, I distract her, and he shaves his head, and all of a sudden I hear him like, Joe. I'm like, what's going on, Scotty? What's up? Come here. He's like, I clogged the sink. I'm like, what? He's like, I clogged the sink, man. She's going to effing kill me. I'm like, yeah, she's going to kill you and me. So now Scotty and I are trying to unclog this sink, and we can't get it. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go get the plunger, okay? So I go downstairs, I get the plunger, right? And Scotty and I are plunging this sink, and sure enough, my wife comes up, and the Italian Long Islander comes out and she starts ripping the both of us. Scotty was like running because it sounded like his mom was chasing him around the house. It was beautiful. Scotty's in there with the plunger trying to plunge the sink. My poor kid's is sleeping and my wife is screaming and yelling at him.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, he brings anarchy everywhere he goes. It's
Anarchy.
unbelievable.
It's great.
So, Joe, tell us more. I want to switch gears a little bit. Now that you guys have finished at Navy this year, you had a good run towards the end there. Give us some pluses that you guys have to look forward to coming into the off season now.
Well, I mean, look, it was an up and down year for us, and I think there were some positives. I think the biggest thing we learned is the edge we need to play with. It's got to be something to prove, and I felt like this group didn't have that this year. So I think with the disappointment of some of the results this year, that's going to come. But, for us, our freshman class was terrific. I thought, the biggest improvement for us was the face-off game, and Greg, you taught us a bunch. Anthony Gabriel, we went from 46% facing off to close to 60% as a team with the same personnel. And that's just a remarkable number. We went from being a team that was dominated to a team that potentially can creep into being in the upper echelon. So I think that's extremely exciting for us. I love our young talent. I love the base we have with our senior group. And I just think we're close to getting this thing rolling the right way with some more consistency.
Yeah.
My question for you is, you did such a great job at Marquette starting the program there, and it's talked about now. That's almost the model now for all these other programs trying to start new programs. Do you go into your mindset coaching at Navy with a little bit of a different mentality than kind of what you had at Marquette starting the program?
I think that's the mistake I made here. Is shifting my mentality a little bit and not being as demanding on our guys as I was at Marquette, because I wasn't afraid of anything at Marquette. I wasn't afraid of failure. I wasn't afraid of, how the guys, not how they felt, but like I knew I had to be hard on them because we had to establish a culture of winning, of what that looked like, of work. And I knew to do that, the only way I knew how was to just be really hard on the guys. And I think I softened up a little bit when I got here because I took for granted that this institution did that on its own. And I wanted the guys to be in an environment on the lacrosse field that they were enjoying themselves. And I think that's important, but I also think that these kids want challenge. They want to be demanded. They want to be held accountable to the highest standard. They chose a tough path. And, for me as a leader, I think the one thing that I'm critical of is that I've got to be a little bit harder on our team, and a little bit more demanding. And that, to me, that's exciting because that's an easy shift for me, man. I can ramp it up a little bit. It's when the administrator taps you on the back and says, "Hey, man, you got to dial it down." That's when you start to worry. So I'm not afraid to turn the juice up a little bit.
That's probably some music to Orson's ears.
Well, him, Greg. He's wild in his own mind. So
Yes.
he likes the volume turned up a little bit.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. So tell us about, because there was a lot of exciting news about the new facility coming your way.
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit about that.
It's listen, we get so much support here because I was telling a recruit today, right now we share a floor with football, and that just speaks to how important our sport is at our institution. I think those are like little clues that recruits can look for. Where are they situated? Who are they near? What resources relative to the other teams on campus do they get? And for us to be sharing a place with football, I think it just speaks to how important Navy lacrosse is on our campus. And when I took the job there, Chet Gladchuk, my AD, and I, we just had this vision of one day building a standalone lacrosse facility because, you look at the future and all the resources these teams are putting in, look at Penn State's facility, look at what Ohio State just did, and Michigan's, and, Hopkins has a place, Marquette has a place. For me, I think having a home was really important. And it got accelerated with the support of a donor who got excited about the project, and now there's tremendous momentum. We are well into the fundraising, and we are extremely close to getting that shovel in the ground. 35,000 square feet, home of men's and women's lacrosse, a weight room that, Greg, it would get you excited. Recovery, and the vision for the facility is it's for player development. and I'm blessed to be able to be on the ground floor of the design with the architects. And the thing I said to them is I want collisions, man. I want opportunities for our kids to bump into each other and spaces where they can interact and see each other. So all that gray space, all that intimate time in between the big moments, that's when teams are built.
Yes.
That's when teams are built, and that's the way we've got to think like that. And we've got a great architecture firm that is just killing the design. So it's exciting. It really is. Really cool stuff.
Dude, only you could get me excited about architecture. I'm all fired up to look at drawings right now.
What I'm curious, and I don't know the answer, but with NIL in college lacrosse, I feel like it's creeping its way into college lacrosse. Does that kind of stay outside of the Naval Academy bubble, or is that affecting players at your school?
Yeah, for us, I mean, they're government employees, so they are not allowed to take NIL deals. Their NIL deal is the world's best education and a wonderful job protecting our country right on the back end. That's the deal they get. And so, I mean, look, it's creeping in. I think it's going to get more robust as years go on. Gurenlian's going to form an NIL collective for Penn State, and he's going to be, seed money with the seed money from all of his stuff. He's got it covered. Yeah. So, it is what it is, but to me, that adds to the challenge and the fun of this place, okay, we can't do it. Makes our lives a little bit easier. We can't get frustrated by it. Let's leverage what we're good at. Let's leverage what we're good at and let's go.
That's nice that it's kind of almost, not a headache, not a concern, not have to worry about it for yourself and just, worrying about, playing ball out there.
Yeah. And the transfer thing, every kid that I recruit, I'm not going to recruit over where everybody else, they're trying to replace these guys. All the moms and dads out there, your kids are getting replaced every single year with all this transfer stuff. So,
I know it.
You're not safe at those other schools. You're safe here. We're not going to recruit over you. We're going to develop your kids. Stick
yes.
with.
Great point.
Yes. Let's go, Amplo. Use the platform. Now, go ahead, Saj. You have something else you want to ask?
No, I was just going to throw in, not a big question, but I'm actually going down to a wedding at the Naval Academy in 2 weeks. Jack Ray, former Navy lacrosse player, is getting married to a Villanova lacrosse girl. So heading down there. Excited for you. Got any good spots for me? Any good tips?
Well, first you got to shave to get on the yard. Okay.
I will.
You got to make sure you do that. Then you got to hit McGarvey's, and I would stay out of Acme. If you go into Acme, man, you're going to be like the old creepy guy. All right.
Okay.
So
I'm only 27.
Dude,
yeah,
come on.
Still the old creepy guy at Acme.
You were the old creepy guy, in your Villanova days, weren't you? Come on.
You're not wrong.
Dude, a Navy and Villanova wedding? Holy shit.
Yeah, so it'll be a good time.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy, man.
That'll
We
be
should
real
probably
good.
assume you're not going to be on the next show after that. You're going to need recovery time.
I had a wedding last weekend. I'm here, ready to rock.
To be young again. Man.
I'm in the cycle right now. It's every weekend almost, it feels like.
Let me ask you this: what's your wedding gift? I mean, do you go up or down, or is it like a standard gift that you give?
Standard gift, $300 check. If it's me and my girlfriend going together, if it's just me, $150.
If it's just you, do you go $150 or do you go $200?
Yeah, $150. If I like them, I'll go $200.
So you think that you are worth the exact same amount as your girlfriend?
Yeah, you pay for your plate. Each plate costs the same.
Now, the Italian in me, you go to a wedding, okay, and you always give cash, but you never seal the envelope, right? And you don't give the envelope until dinner is served, because if the dinner sucks, you're taking out a $50 or $100 bill.
Wow. I got my wife's Jewish. I got to ask her if they're on that too.
They're definitely on that. Come on, Greg. You got to be on that plan.
Yeah, that's right. Go ahead and cancel me for this. I'm going to ask my Jewish wife if they do that too. That's brilliant. Well, Armenians don't do that. Armenians, we seal that.
If you go in assuming like you're paying for the meal, if the meal sucks, I mean, no, right? If I get rubber chicken at a wedding, I'm taking $50 out.
Now, here's a question. What about food stations?
No
like
way.
A buffet? You got to sit down.
I mean, for the cocktail hour, yes. But if it's a buffet at the dinner, if I don't get a sit-down plate with, maybe a little Chateaubriand, right? Nice piece of salmon, right? No rubber chicken, maybe a little Chilean sea bass. That's an upgrade, And then they got to have a Viennese hour, right? They can't just bring me cake. I want the doors to open, and I want there to be an explosion of desserts. I want to be able to walk
God
around.
damn, am I
I want
glad I met
bananas
you after I was
flambe,
married.
right? I want a guy with a
Do
hat
you
on making the
do you have any
banana
daughters?
flambe.
Amplo would have lost his
Do you have
shit
any
at my
daughters?
wedding.
Yeah, I got 3 daughters. Yeah.
All right, so you got this vision that you
We're gonna
have.
find out.
You're gonna be able to develop it. You've already have your vision.
We're gonna
That's why
find
we got the
out.
Face Off Academy camp coming on July 29th, man.
Joe's like, hey, we've got to tell you, all the proceeds are going to my weddings. You would have hated our wedding, dude. We got married in Brooklyn, and we got at a bar called Rebar, and we set up the chairs. My wife's Jewish, so we had a huppah there. And then as soon as we crushed the glass, we rolled the DJ right under the huppah, moved the chairs, and food stations were set up with all kinds of different food all night because I just wanted to dance the whole time.
I would have had fun, but I probably would only give you 2 1/4, maybe 2.50.
You would have given me 2 1/4. And I would have appreciated every cent of that.
Absolutely.
Dude, Joe, this was awesome having you on here, man. I'm so pumped for you guys out in San Diego. When do you guys head out?
I go out the 17th, so that weekend right before.
Man, it's coming up quick.
I have a last question for you about San Diego. What country do you think that maybe hasn't competed in recent years, like kind of outside of maybe Canada and the Iroquois and even Australia? Like any new countries really kind of pushing for competitiveness?
I think England's going to be pretty good. I really liked last time Israel, watching them in the bracket below us. They were ultra competitive. I think there's some pretty good kids on that team. And the Puerto Rican team, right? They've got some college guys, right? All those countries have done a really good job, I think, of recruiting. So
Yeah, I heard they're just giving out passports in Puerto Rico. You want to be a
Yo,
citizen?
our boy, Jared Hirschman.
Yeah, that's right. He's the face-off guy for Team Puerto Rico.
That's right.
Yeah, and he's a Jewish. He's got Jewish heritage and he's Puerto Rican, so he could play for Israel and Puerto Rico. If they play each other, he could face off against himself.
Man, that's got to be some kind of record. There's a record I don't have. That's amazing.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that'd be great. So the blue division, is Japan back in the blue division now?
I don't think so.
I remember they tried Scotland last time. That didn't go well.
Yeah, you know what? They might be because Scotland got bumped down, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah. So Japan is back.
Japan plays a funny brand of lacrosse, and I feel like it tends to the international game. That Kyoto University used to come over and play us, and they kind of just zip around.
Man.
They zip
Super
around.
disciplined.
We scrimmaged them in San Antonio, like 2019, right before the pandemic, and we crushed them by 1. And, I mean, this is the Team USA guys against them, and we're like, wow, things have changed, But they play their tails off. And you watch those guys in the sixes. Those guys in the sixes last summer, man, they were fun to watch. Energetic, they can snap the ball. Yeah.
Yeah,
Watch out.
I'm looking forward to seeing sixes at the international level. That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, it will be. It's good.
Well, Joe, thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate you taking some time on a Tuesday night. Come chop it up with us. We wish you luck this summer in San Diego. We wish you the best of luck at the Naval Academy next season. But, man, thanks so much for coming on.
It was awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Joe. Love you, man. Good luck out there.
Love you too, brother. I'll see you soon.
Welcome back, everybody, from that interview with Coach Amplo. Such a blast having him on. Really pulling for him this summer with Team USA, and especially pulling for him down at the Naval Academy. I know, talking to him in that interview, he was a little disappointed with how the season turned out, but I'm without a doubt he's going to get that program back to where they were. I think they were in the quarterfinals. They lost to that Brown team in 2016, but they're definitely going to be a mainstay come May for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about like a guy that you would want your son to play for and be around. I mean, he's a perfect example. Great dude. Every person who plays for him loves him. He's straightforward with you. And you can see he's kind of, he's very self-reflective. And I feel like all the great coaches take onus instead of just, the kid's got to step it up. Like, what did I do? And what can I do better? And that's consistent across the entire Team USA roster as far as coaches go. Like they're all that way, and it's awesome. So it's a testament to them hopefully bringing back the gold again. Navy hopefully is going to take another step forward next year, and Coach Amplo is absolutely the man for the job. So it's pretty cool.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. But without talking about more, let's get into the PLL updates from this past weekend. Action-packed weekend. I'd love to hear just your initial reactions right off the bat.
Okay, so initial reactions. One, I love the shot clock change. I love the shorter clock after a face-off win. I love the shorter clock after a reset. I used to remember playing in the MLL when it was a 60-second shot clock, and like with 4 seconds left, a bogus push call, or someone would get bailed out because the ball would like ricochet off the goalpost, and all of a sudden it's like, shit, another 60 seconds. So I actually love that it bounces down to the 32 seconds. The face-off thing was fascinating because everyone was just trying to figure out exactly what they're going to do. I remember training camp in 2019 when they wanted to start. I forget what the shot clock was initially supposed to be. It was like 42 seconds or something like that. And after like the first scrimmages, everyone was like, yo, this is a NASCAR race. We can't do this. And then they reassessed. And I think everyone's trying to figure out, like the Atlas, Trevor stayed on almost the whole game. And then you had other teams like Connor Farrell still transferred through the box. One of the things I was kind of surprised that more people didn't do. Like if I was playing in my first game in this shot clock situation, my thought process would be get the GB after the face-off win, sprint as hard as I can to the cage, and if there's not an obvious pass, I'm shooting it wide of the goal, and I'm stopping the clock so I can transfer through the box.
I think we saw a similar scenario to that in the Whip Snakes game in Chrome when the Chrome scored with, I think, 5 seconds left. And who's the Whips face-off guy now? LaSalle, right?
LaSalle.
He wins it forward, and he looks like he has a fast break, but instead of going down because it was such a short time, he whips it behind the cage, and they have someone backing up, and they tried to get a restart play from X, but too little time. But I thought that was an interesting wrinkle.
Yeah.
That
anybody can think of that fast, it would be Stagnita. He would find that loophole. Really smart. So, that was really cool. I also think, the young injection of talent in the PLL. Like if you look at over the last 3 years, the amount of Hall of Fame caliber guys who have left the game. And then you also have Hartsey, Brody, Tucker, like other guys who are probably on their way out of with another year or so. The injection of talent is phenomenal. And I know there was a lot of themes that we'll get to game by game here. I do want to touch on the face-off thing. I was pleasantly surprised. I actually am impressed. I'm not impressed. I'm actually I'm kind of disappointed in myself because I didn't think of this. So we talked about the new cadence this year. The cadence is different. The refs are back. They're telling the guys go down, and then within a second or two, they're blowing the whistle. Okay. We do know the normal things. Oh man, they're all rolling into it. No one's getting set, whatever. But what I didn't think about is all of these PLL officials are also NCAA officials. That is how the NCAA did it this year. There was a very quick whistle. Basically, when guys' gloves are hitting the ground, they're saying set whistle right away. And I'm thinking, oh, well, you need an adjustment period. But that's how it was for me. Because back when I was in college, there was a set and then a space. And when you got to MLL practice, it was all swizzles and everyone was getting burned. It's the exact opposite this year now. So you saw the PLL guys lining up. They're used to the foot there. They're used to the back out. The NCAA guys, the three guys that you and we had at the top of our big board for face-off guys coming into the draft, right? You had Sisselberger, LaSalle, and Rowlett. All three of them in their first games went over 50%. That's never happened in professional lacrosse.
And I think Sisselberger was at 75%, right?
Sisselberger was at 80%.
There you go, yeah.
As a team, they were 75%.
Yeah.
So it was like, whoa, the college kids were so used to this already. They were actually kicking the shit out of the old guys. So, I don't like how fast it is, but the rookies sure did. So, yeah, it was pretty cool.
So I have a question for you, too. Do you think that these college guys, we talk about a lot, NLL guys coming in and they're burnt out because of how much lacrosse they're playing. But yeah. I feel like these rookies are almost at an advantage because they're almost crisper out of the gate. Because, how much organized lacrosse are, 3-4 year PLL veterans playing that aren't playing NLL in the months prior, because these college seniors who just came out lived, breathed, ate, drank, slept lacrosse for the last 9 months. So I think
I've always said it, Sives, is a great point. The most dangerous type of professional lacrosse player is a rookie who did not make the tournament. Because his last thing that he remembers is that he failed at the end of the game. He has 3 weeks off to let that stew, and he has more time to prepare and heal. But he's still in sick shape. It's the most dangerous dudes out there. Sisselberger looked like he was shot out of a cannon. And yeah, I think those are the scariest dudes that come into the league because they're young, they're in crazy shape, and they're rested now for the first time in months. And they're excited to play pro lacrosse. You remember your first time out there? I remember my first time at Rochester, dude. I was a bullet because I was just like, this is incredible. Like, there's a shot clock, and holy shit, that's Gary Gate. Like, you're just all over the place. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think that they have a definitive advantage, especially because, dude, imagine going out there and the field is the size of a basketball court. You're like, wait a minute, this is a joke. I could run laps around this forever.
And I think we saw a lot of rookies, like you mentioned, do really make their mark week one. Watching the games, I know you're a fan of the 52-second, and you said the reset 32-second. For me, as a consumer of it, I still lean more towards the college rule where, we just watched probably the two best weekends of lacrosse with Memorial Day and then this opening weekend. I think the biggest difference between the two is the talent in the PLL is just unbelievable. It's top notch, as it should be. But the team aspect of the way their offenses run isn't quite there yet for week one of the PLL. And it will get there. But when you watch the Final Four, these defenses are well-oiled machines, and they are able to, because of the longer shot clock, zip the ball around, dodge, pass, redodge. In the PLL, it's, you may not get that second or third.
Much more individualized.
Yes.
Yes.
That's my biggest takeaway.
I've always likened pro lacrosse to that of the NBA, where you play team cohesive college basketball within a system that your coach allows, or else you sit the bench. Mm-hmm. To then getting paid millions of dollars and you're a superstar and you have a Nike contract and you're going to try to drop 45 points a game and you're going to ISO whenever you can. Mm-hmm. They're both basketball, but one has the best players in the world. And what usually happens in the NBA is some kind of combination of the best players individually in the world meet whoever's playing as the best team at the time somewhere in the playoffs, and something's got to give. And I feel like you're absolutely right. The first couple of weeks, always in pro lacrosse, because you have guys missing for indoor, you have college kids who've just shown up, you have veterans trying to make the team and stay. So everyone's really in this awkward situation the first couple of weeks. Then after like week 4 or 5, when you get close to the All-Star break, all of a sudden you see teams create their identity. Okay, this team is dangerous in transition. This team will grind you on offense. So yeah, I think it takes time to create their identities because they're all new faces, and it's just unavoidable. I think that's why the Whips had such a good runs for so long, because they were the same guys for a decent amount of time.
It's a great point. And with that, let's transition to breaking down some of these games. We'll start with the game I just mentioned, the last game of the weekend, the Chrome Whipsnakes. Chrome came out and took down the Whipsnakes 12-11. Great, up and down game. It was really cool to see that kid Cross Ferreira just won a D3 national championship at Salisbury. Really stamp his mark in the PLL and bury that game winner with about 5 seconds left. But the Whips, they're missing some guys. They were missing Brad Smith. Zed Williams wasn't there yet playing in the NLL championship. So, I don't think it's...
Those are two massive names to be missing.
Totally.
Yeah. What did you think? What jumped out at you in that game? What were like the two or three big storylines for you?
I think, the Chrome... I've talked about how big of a Chrome guy I am. I think that looking at this team... Sam Hanley was the perfect draft pick for them because he takes off so much pressure from the other middies and lets guys like Justin Anderson really operate. And I thought it was interesting. I think it was Kark on the broadcast said that he was impressed, and not to diminish any of his accomplishments of Justin Anderson at UNC, but he's a player that's really elevated his game since college. That has taken those next steps to be, a stud midfielder in the PLL. So I guess my first takeaway is that Sam Hanley, was the best perfect draft pick for that team. And I guess second, them beating the Whips, a team that has had probably the most success for the PLL's lifespan. Them taking out the Whips week 1 is a big step for them, and kind of win their own championship.
Yeah, I think we had talked about in the draft preview. My question about Hanley was, can he still play that style in the PLL amongst grown-ass men? And yeah, he freaking can. He was a monster, and it's actually very, very cool. I think it's awesome for our sport to have another monster. The other thing, too, is that, check your notes. Both goalies are still very good. Berlor looked sick. He looked mid-season form there. And then the other one was P. LaSalle. P. LaSalle is coming in. He's got big shoes to fill because Nardell is hurt. And, I had him as the number 2 guy on that big board as a face-off man, and he didn't disappoint. He went against an all-star. Connor Farrell, literally the biggest guy in the league at face-off. And he went over 50%. And he did it scrappy like he always does. He's just scrappy. There's like a mess, and it looks like a little kid's soccer game. And all of a sudden, he just comes out with the ball every freaking time. And, he's a guy who I think is going to thrive in this fast shot clock realm. And I think, like you had just said, you never quite know who's going to get into the pros and suddenly be even better. Because I personally, you can tell me if it was the same for you, but when I got to the MLL and no one was telling me what to do anymore, it was like, I can just find out what I'm best at. And you can play with a longer leash. And you can, oh my God, like I'm really good if I do this. And I wasn't allowed to do this. And, picking up one-handed ground balls is my thing. I wasn't allowed to be my thing before. Like, we always talk about Jeremy Sieverts. Like, that was a perfect example in the MLL. He came out of nowhere as a role player for Maryland and then was a superstar in the MLL. So, yeah.
How about Chanenchuk? He found the fountain of youth and didn't tell us. He was 3-2. He was letting them fly.
People have been saying that. Where do they think Chaney went? Chaney's been doing this all along, dude. Chaney killed you.
But he hasn't slowed down, I think, is what people are alluding to. He's just
he trains.
Still stroking it. He's stroking the ball. He shot 3 for 7, just letting them fly. He looked great.
Yeah,
they need that.
Swag. I mean, Chaney's not 40 years old.
He's got to be in the upper percentile of older guys in the league, though, no?
Yo, here's the thing about Chaney, though, you have to remember. Same reason Matt Danowski was able to play for so long. They just know the game at a different level.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So you don't necessarily have to be faster or stronger as you just have to have more knowledge and you become more dangerous. Ray Lewis used to talk about that as he was getting older. He's like, I'm not as big and strong and fast as I was 5 years ago, but I'm better now because I know what you're going to do before you do it. So I think he's just wiser.
No, that's a great point. And that was no slight to Chaney, but just great seeing him out there just still dominating. Let's switch over to the next game on our list here. Cannons versus Archers. It was the biggest score differential of the weekend, with Archers winning 16-13, which isn't that big of a differential. But I think there might be some cause for concerns if you're a Cannons fan defensively. Offense, they got theirs. They scored 13. But, I mean, what'd you see in this one? The Cannons were a team that we talked about a lot being right there last year. No Lyle this year. What do you think, moving forward for the Cannons? And then on the other side, Archers, that offense with Mac O'Keefe coming back, playing with his boy Grant Amend. It was sweet to see them connecting for a few goals.
Loved it. Well, I mean, first off, I was a little surprised that the Cannons didn't go with Jake Falk as face-offs. But I understand Coach Holman, he's known Bones a really long time, and he was going against a rookie, so the thought was, okay, a rookie's going to have to adjust. Like we said, it actually was the exact opposite. It was a total backfire because these rookies are probably a little bit ahead of everybody else as far as the cadences right now. So, Sisselberger going 80% certainly did not help. The fact they only lost by 3 may or may not, you can debate, prove that the shorter shot clock after the face-off win might be effective. But I agree. I think defensively they have to figure something out. Now, Brody's not playing, and we got to figure out if he's going to play. And, they're going against quite possibly the most proficient offense in the league. And when you look at that situation, I think there's Cannon still have to find an identity. I mean, we have to give him a couple weeks. You went from the most fun player in our lifetime playing to all of a sudden he's gone. Now everyone's got to figure out the new offensive identity with a new coach and a new system and new people, blah, blah, blah. So that's interesting. I think the Archers are very confident because you saw all of them. And it was the same thing with Notre Dame. All of a sudden was winning faceoffs. The whole country was like, shit. This was the one thing they couldn't do, and now they're going to do it. Same thing with the Archers. The Archers are winning faceoffs. I've said if the Archers are winning 50%, good luck. If they're winning 80%, I'm putting my bets down right now on the futures.
I was going to say, this Archers team, I think, definitely showed the most week 1 where they're offensively, defensively at the faceoff X. Dobson, their goalie, saved it at 60%. Connor Fields is running out of the midfield and, scoring 4 goals. Schreiber is 1 and 3, dishing the ball. Ament, quiet 1 and 2, but I mean, they looking at the box score, 4 points, 4 points, 3 points, 3 points, 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, 1 point. Like they had some serious distribution, and that's the sign of a good team for sure.
Yes. I think Grant Ament being a part of the offense and rather than having to worry about carrying any significant load or anything is more dangerous. And that ball's spinning with that team. Any one of those guys can ping it. So, yeah, the offense and you also see this side, and you've probably been on this side of it. When your team's winning the majority of the draws and you're going to get yours, you just sling it. You don't worry about you'll see when teams are losing, and we've seen this from the Archers in the past. We'll be like, oh, their offense looks stagnant here in the semifinal game. It's like, no, they're nervous. Because they might not see the ball again for who knows long if they don't score here. So then guys start that play outside of themselves and try to do too much. And if they're getting the ball, then they're going to sling it like this, and it's only going to get worse for teams.
Back to the Cannons, I think they will find their groove. I thought, it was nice seeing Kavanaugh pot a couple. He had a great quote in the post-game conference about, he said he was disappointed with the season he had last year, and, this Cannons is a reset button for him. And him as well as the rest of the team have a lot to prove. Something interesting I saw though on Twitter was the Cannons dropped Stephen Rafis, and I thought he was a very good player for them last year and a really important part of that offense. And it's just he got dropped and picked up 2 seconds later by the Atlas. And I'm not sure with what time period we're in terms of trades or the trade deadline, but I mean, you got to remember, as a coach, Coach Holman is also the GM. He needs to be smarter about that, especially for the league, for the PLL to take the next step in pro sports. You have to operate like a professional sports team, where if you have an asset and you don't want, or he doesn't fit in the lineup anymore, or you don't have a disagreement with him for some reason, then leverage it because someone else will want him and someone else will take him, which we exactly saw. So if you don't want Rafis playing in that offensive lineup, Holman needs to get a defenseman in return. That's just the missing piece of the league in general.
Do you think you do wonder with that happening like that if that was an emotional decision? Because like you said, a rational – look, we're not in the locker room, but a rational decision would be I have an asset, like you said. I know I can get something for him. So then just releasing him like that, it seemed like you were sending a point for some reason. Now, we don't know any details, but maybe he was late for a meeting, maybe whatever. And, if he gets dropped like that, you're basically just giving him to a team that's already pretty loaded.
Yeah.
It is interesting. I would love to know more about why that happened, but now you're empty-handed.
Exactly.
Not like you cleared cap space
Exactly. And we talked about how, the Cannons were already a little short-handed this year because of their transactions, how little draft picks they had. And they ended up not even signing one of their 2 draft picks. So they only had 1 draft pick this year, realistically. And now you're not going to get anything in return. Like someone would trade a draft pick for him or, whatever. But that's just something that I noticed that I think for what I want for this league to get to that next level, it needs to operate in that mindset.
Yeah.
But we talked about the Atlas. They just picked up Rafus. Let's switch over to that game. They dropped a 1-goal game to the Redwoods. Our boy Ryder Garnsey, guest on the show a couple weeks ago, went off for 6 goals. Just absolutely dominated. He was funny. He was like joking about luck of the Irish and just having some good mojo coming off a national championship and rolling into week 1 where he just dropped 6 goals. But this Redwoods team, they were fun to watch. Pinnell, I think, is playing really good team offense and getting people involved, which is awesome to see. I was really impressed with the Redwoods. And in the Atlas, they hung in tight, but I'm not too big on the Atlas this year, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think Trevor was Trevor, totally dominant,
and he'll always keep the Atlas involved because he is Trevor.
Yeah, and I know I do have to complain about one thing though. So Trevor and TD were locked up on a face-off, and you saw this. Mm-hmm. And Trevor's yelling. You can hear him on the audio on the broadcast. He's yelling to the ref. He's elbow, elbow, elbow. And I don't know if his elbow was against the plastic or if TD meant to do it or whatever. But by rule, you can't have your elbow touching the plastic of your head. You can't just like plow this way. So the ref, no one's calling it. So, but TD like moved his elbow back, and then like Trevor pulled the ball out. Snapshot of that: PLL main account, PLL Atlas account, TLN, which is just an arm of the PLL now account. They all post screenshot, and they all like, "Oh man, I can't believe he did this. He's him. He's calling his shot." I'm sitting here like, you sons of bitches. So all in the comment section, it's just a bunch of haters trashing Trevor for being a showboat. And I'm going, you're taking the sweetest kid.
I know.
Dude, they interviewed him mid-game, and he was so gracious. Like, Carcater's like, how about this battle with TD? He's like, yeah, he's an amazing opponent. I'm like, dude, you're 70% right now. Like, you don't – and he's just being gracious and nice. He's always that way. And then for a fact that's not what he was pointing at. And you post that, and I just had an issue with that because I'm like, dude, now he's getting a whole bunch of hate, and he doesn't deserve it. In fact, what we should be talking about is why isn't the official who's staring right at the elbow not calling it? But yeah, that was man. I saw that on Instagram, dude. I was like, I immediately took the offense to that.
No, I saw that as well, and I think they ended up posting a mic'd up clip where he was talking to the ref, and he's like, I was just saying he was on it. I wasn't going at you. I'm just saying hello. Like, but yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And maybe I'm overreacting a little bit about the Atlas. I think with Trevor and with generational talent like Jeff Teat, they will be in games, but something with the midfield for me doesn't quite click. I think that Costabile is an awesome player, Team USA member. He's a volume shooter, and he'll get his. But then they also have, Romar Dennis, who was the MVP of the Sixes, he looked like a man amongst boys out there. He was dominating with the 13-yard two-pointer. He goes out and shoots 0 for 8, and that's type of production that's going to kill you. Not saying that's what he's going to do that all year, but he's the type of guy that he's one of the definitions of the guy. It's, shoot to get hot, shoot to stay hot. So he's going to have to keep taking his shots to kind of get that down. But I don't know. I love seeing Xander Dixon from UVA find a role out there, scoring a bunch of goals. He's awesome to watch.
I love his game, man.
Yeah, he's such a play.
And isn't his nickname Slim Reaper?
Yep, exactly.
That is, if I don't get a PLL Slim Reaper shirt at some point, if that shit doesn't drop, I'm gonna freak out. That is the coolest nickname, man.
The reason why I love seeing Xander Dixon have success too is because with the PLL and how little teams there are, right? Only 8 teams, and there's so much good lacrosse talent out there. I think a lot of times you saw these teams just getting the best players of from all these college teams and putting them together and trying to play, and it's not as cohesive as I kind of alluded to earlier because there's only one ball. You can't have 6 ball dominant players on offense. You insert this kid like Xander Dixon who has a great mind for the game, knows where the soft spots are on defenses, and is able to play without the ball, and he has success right away. And that's the type of complementary pieces a guy like Teat needs to be out there and catch and finish his passes. So it's great to see him having success. And I think Pressler, obviously, he's a great coach. And him kind of identifying that and inserting him into the lineup, it just shows, that the Atlas offense will be successful. But like I said, I think some of those guys need to lock it in a little bit.
Yeah, I also think we have to remember, man, in professional lacrosse, your team your first week is going to look nothing like your team in the 10th week. Like I said earlier in the show, you're not going to have, there's guys who are still playing indoor. There's still guys who are banged up from college. Like, for instance, the Redwoods still don't even have Owen Grant. There's guys who aren't playing right now that'll absolutely be playing in a few weeks. But I think the Atlas are going to be fine. I think that first game, I remember you go through training camp and you have no idea if you're good or not. Like every year, regardless of the names on your thing. And then you play your first half, and then you're like, oh, wow, we are not as good as I thought we were. Or you're like, holy shit, this team works. So they'll reassess, and then they'll decide on some roster spot stuff. And that's what's always interesting about the first few weeks is there's a lot of jostling. And as a coach, you're sitting here going, we have a 10-week season. I have 2 weeks to really figure this out, or else we're at a deficit. So I think the Atlas are going to be totally fine. You have Trevor. I was interested because I love Romar's game. I always have. But I was wondering if there was an inflated sense of his game after the sixes. Because, 12-yard 2 bombs is going to make Romar Dennis the greatest lacrosse player of all time. Because he's going to smash, move that thing back out, play 6-on-6. And now, like you said, there's another volume shooter there. So I think you're right. I think the Atlas would benefit a lot from having, for instance, the Redwoods have a Bertrand or a Wes Berg. So it'll be interesting to see. But I do want to talk about the Redwoods, too, for sure.
Yeah, and I wonder, how much Rafus getting picked up by the Atlas has to do with, maybe what they saw out there and trying to get more guys that are efficient players.
Yeah, maybe. Now, when we switch gears, we go to the Woods. Huge W. They're going to be fine with, if basically anybody but Trevor, they're going to go probably over 50% on faceoffs. And then this Redwoods offense reminds me a lot of the young Rabel Cannons offense, where in X you have Ryan Boyle, right? That's Rob Pinnell right now. He's able to dodge and set people up at GLE. Then you have the second layer, which was Matt Posque, in my opinion, still one of the most underrated, insane scorers in the history of lacrosse. But Wes Berg's right there now. Bertrand can also fill that spot. Then up top, you have 2 downhill dodgers that can also shoot 2 in Miles and Perk, including Nakai looked great. And I think him adding that, like we talked about in the offseason, adding that dimension. So I remember when you play the Cannons, it was like if Rabel was dodging, he's probably going to beat his man. If you slide to him, which you have to, if that second slide isn't literally on the gloves of Posque, he's catching it and scoring. And that's what Wes Berg brings. That's a lot of danger. And I feel like having Wes Berg there changes everything.
Totally. And he's been someone that's kind of bounced around a little bit. I know he was with the Redwoods, left, and it's good to see him find a home. And, he, like you said, he's been a prolific scorer forever.
Yeah, he's a beauty, man. He's an awesome dude,
It's
too.
not new. It's not new news to us. And then you throw in pieces like Jules Hennenberg, who I give him a ton of credit where, I don't want to say he reinvented his game, but, when he was at Rutgers, he was the guy. Yeah. He's okay with not being the guy, and he's bought into his role on the team, and that makes the whole collective team so much better.
You know what? Jules has such a great lacrosse mind, and he's always open to learning more. And I feel like ever since he started his Juke Lab and his coaching business and mission and all that stuff, he's gotten better by coaching. And I feel like he is such a valuable player on that offense because he can fit any role you need.
Absolutely.
If Hackman goes down, he can play it. You need, Mitty, he can play it. If you put a pole on him, he can dodge him. If you put a shorty on him, he can toast him. Like, he's a real wild card for that offense. And I think their defense looked fantastic. And Jack Kelly looks like Team USA Jack Kelly in that first week, man. And
it's good to see him healthy. Fought his way all the way back. Yeah,
I would love to see USA Jack Kelly come back, man. He looks good.
We have one more game to touch on this weekend, the lowest scoring game of the weekend, championship rematch, Water Dogs versus Chaos. It's 8-7 overtime. Very interesting to see, two single-digit scores. Connor Kelly iced the game with this overtime winning goal, but, do you think it was such low scoring, just week one rust? Do you think the defenses played, out of control and they really took over and it was just a defensive game? What'd you see here?
Well, this is the only game that I didn't bet the over because you don't bet the over against Blaze. The only question is ever, do the Chaos get hot on offense and screw your under bet? But I think it's the first week. I also think that you had a combination of things. Nick Rowlett played phenomenal rookie faceoff man for Chaos. That was the first time you've really seen the Chaos win a ton of faceoffs in a game like that, like just one after another. And they were playing with the squad that's not going to look anything like this in a few weeks. So I think offensively, it's not the final chapter of the Chaos roster that we're going to get. So that doesn't mean guys aren't as good. It just means they're not as cohesive. The ball wasn't moving the way it usually does. Shots that you usually wouldn't settle for, they were settling for. I think that played into it. If the team that's not cohesive on offense keeps winning faceoffs, it kind of changes the structure of the goal scoring in the game. And then on the other side, you had Blaze being Blaze. I mean, just absolutely crushing it. Dude, can we just talk about for a second? I know we've saw it before. It is mind-blowing that Blaze plays indoor and plays offense all winter.
It's crazy.
Throws a chest protector on, and 2 weeks later, he's the best goalie in the world. It's just nuts.
It has anyone else done that where they've, I guess, played out in indoor? And I guess, did Scotty do that?
Scotty Rodgers?
Yeah, didn't he say he played defense or something?
He may have gone to camp. I think he may have gone to camp with the Titans.
Yeah.
But it's not like Blaze is like almost an all-star pedigree offensive player indoor.
Correct.
And then all of a sudden is the best goalie in the world outdoor. I know Matt Vick used to play for Canada as a long pole in field and play goalie indoor, but that's a little bit different. It's just crazy that you go from playing offense inside to just seeing 110-mile-an-hour shots and saving them all. And it crushes my soul. I can't figure it out. And I'm so impressed with it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to see. And, you think back of his time when he was at Albany, he scored that goal against Cornell in the NCAA tournament. And that was really just the start of it. Seeing him play for the Wings and scoring goals, and then him just, up until now, making Team USA and, being just the goalie in the PLL right now. It's great to see. We're big Blaze fans. We've had him on. It's great to see him have success. Both these teams, like you said, the Chaos will have a different look on their offense in the coming weeks. They had no Dane Smith. They had no Josh Byrne. So those are, their guys.
Pretty big parts to be missing, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's a good point. I kind of glossed over that when I was thinking and just looking at the score, surface level. But the quick turnaround, right? These guys are back at it next week in Charlotte, North Carolina. We'll give a quick preview and picks for the games to come. Maybe who might need to win the most out of these teams. First off, before we get into each game, Charlotte, North Carolina, is this a new location for the PLL, or is that? I'm not positive.
I don't think it's a new city, but Memorial Stadium has been revamped, and I believe that's where they're going to be. And it looks beautiful now. So it might be a new city for them, but
So we have two games Friday night. First
finally
game.
give the
I
people
know.
what they want. Friday night lacrosse.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing. First game, two undefeated teams, Chrome versus the Archers. That game will be at 6 p.m. What are you thinking here? Two of the teams that I was the most impressed with week one. It will be a good game, I think. Let me check the notes here. I believe the Archers are favored by 1.5 here. What do you like in this game? What are you looking to see?
Well, let me make it very clear that I don't do the spreads. I do the money lines because it's always a one-goal game.
Yep.
Now, that being said, money line, I would take the Archers. I feel like they have a slight face-off advantage just because Sisselberger's hot, and I feel like if all things are being even, the Archers will score more with their possessions, and it's going to be, dude, Mike Sisselberger versus Connor Farrell. That's a lot of steak,
A lot of meat.
a lot of meat against two very good standing face-off guys. So that'll be pretty interesting. But who are you taking? I can't ask you that. You're a Chrome back guy.
I am a Chrome guy, but I mean this Archers offense is what worries me. I don't think I would bet the game. If I were to pick, I think I'd pick Archers.
Well, let's think less about the Archers offense and more about the Chrome defense.
Okay.
So the Chrome beat the Whips.
Chrome defense is who? Manly.
Yeah.
They have who else? I'm blanking right now. They have JT Giles Harris, who's all world defenseman.
Phenomenal.
And then who's their last guy down there? I'm pulling up the box score from last week. Give me a second. But no, you're right. I mean, yeah, they have good defense, but this is regardless of whatever the score of the Water Dogs Chaos game was. This is an offensive league. That's how the shot clock is designed to push pace up and down, transition goals. The two-pointer, they moved it in a little bit on the edges, like the three-point line in basketball. It's an offensive league, and I think, offenses are what's going to win these teams the game unless a goalie or a face-off guy steals the game, if that makes sense.
What I'm definitely going to do is I am going to take the over in this game, 24.5. So you see those OUs bumped up a little bit after the first week. But yeah, I'm going to take the over. I think in week 2, the offenses will be even better. Even though I respect both of these defenses, I think the Chrome defense is very good. It's just that they're going to be under siege, I think, a little bit. So, I think that both of these teams are good in transition. I think Hanley, I can't wait to watch him play again. So yeah, I'm gonna take the Archers money line on this, and I'm taking the over as well.
I like that. I'm in line with you there as well. The next game of our Charlotte weekend is Friday night as well at 8:30 p.m. Undefeated Water Dogs versus the undefeated Redwoods. Just from what I saw, week 1, I tend to believe I think the Redwoods. I'm leaning Redwoods. DeLuca started in goal for them. Is Ward not back yet from NLL? I'm not sure if he's going to play.
I don't know if he's back yet or not, but I don't
Yeah.
think they lose a lot with DeLuca. I think DeLuca's a great goalie.
I think he's streaky, and
He's
he's
almost Wardo's doppelganger.
yeah, he's
Exactly the same.
when you're looking down the barrel at the cage and his head is 2 feet above the crossbar, you're like, what the heck? But no, that's a good point. The Redwoods, though, I think they found their groove, and we just talked about, how well put together this team is and complementary pieces. Think about, starting from the goalie, Jack Kelly, going up to the defense where they have, the 3 Notre Dame guys in Epple, Glazner, and Arden Cohen, right? Those guys know how they're going to play together well. We talked about Nakai Montgomery and how he's accepted his role where he's just a workhorse for them, where he's, getting back, playing defense, winning ground balls, taking wings on faceoffs, also contributing to the offensive end. And then we know, their superstars in Rob Pennell, and guys like Ryder who are going to finish, Charlie Bertrand, who, Team USA member this year, we talked about in the interview with Amplo. I think that is just going to be a little too much for the Water Dogs coming out in this second week. But, they could definitely prove me wrong.
I'm honestly looking at these lines. On DraftKings, you're getting a plus 100 money line for Redwoods.
Wow. I guess maybe they're overvaluing them winning the championship last year.
I'm betting that. I'm taking that before it goes away.
That's a good point.
And also the other part of it is I'm fascinated to know what's going on with the face-off situation with the Water Dogs. TD is not going to have 2 games in a row like he did. Yes, last week. He's gonna be ready to kick some ass. Withers, the number 1 face-off guy in the NLL, didn't play week 1. I don't know if he's still banged up or not. I know he's also in training to be a fireman. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But I'm jumping on the Redwoods money line if it's plus 100.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm definitely leaning Redwoods for sure.
It's pretty crazy swing because taking the Redwoods at plus 1.5 is minus 140.
Yeah, giving up a lot of juice.
It's interesting. So that's where I'm at with that one. And I love Friday Night Lacrosse. Make my pizza taste better.
I love it as well. It'll be good to sit down, tune in, and veg out on the couch that Friday night. But then the next day, Saturday, 3 p.m. on ABC, which is great. We talked about how well the PLL did opening weekend in terms of viewership. Having these games on ABC is definitely advantageous for that. We have the Whipsnakes versus the Atlas. 2 teams that, I think are, I don't want to use the word historic because the league's so young, but definitely 2 teams that have had a lot of the bigger names when it comes to superstars. And, the Whips have had a ton of success. I don't want to say I put the Atlas down. I think they just have a little bit more question marks around them right now. I don't know. How are you feeling for this game?
Yeah, I think, look, both of these teams started 0-1, and neither one of them are used to that. Mm-hmm. And it'll be, start with, you got 2 awesome goalies. You have, who, by the way, I think both have chips on their shoulders this year after the way the USA thing went. And then you have 2 face-off guys who are fascinating in completely different ways. I think PD provides a completely different challenge than Trevor is used to. And I'm going to be very fascinated to see if Trevor tries to stay on the field the whole time. And also, by the way, the commentators were talking a lot about that, Sibes. Quint at nauseum was talking about it. And he was like, he's going to get tired. He's getting tired. Hey, Quint, he's standing out there. Trevor didn't run down and go to X and then roll dodge and try to – he was like, hey, look, you guys are going to play 5-on-5 now. We're going to have more space. Yep. If I were Trevor and they said stay out there, I would run to the crease and then I'd come back up, set a screen on the initial dodge, and then I would leave my man and I would fold out and be like, look, you're going to play 5-on-5. And I think I'm interested to see if he does that. I'm interested to see if PD does it. It'll be cool. But I think the Atlas Whips is interesting. You have 2 teams that both lost, and the OU is 23.5, and I think I'm going to take the under in this.
Interesting.
Because I think both goalies are going to play out of their minds.
I think you bring up a good point with the face-off, though, because I think, both of these coaches have shown how creative they are, and you can get creative with it. Like you said, playing 5-on-5. Putting him on the crease, making, the other face-off man defend the position, make him the hot guy, and see how the other teams react. All good points, and I'd love to see.
Is Ted coming back, by the way?
I don't know. I feel like you might want to give him a week off.
Well, I'm asking because
I saw on Twitter our boy Dan Aresti has been my go-to guy as always for all the updates and decisions, and people getting added, people getting dropped from rosters, and he tweeted out that Zed has been added to the 25-man roster, and Brad Smith has been moved to the PUP, which is what, like the IR almost?
Physically unable to perform.
There you go. So Brad Smith's still banged up. He won't be playing. He's moved to the PUP list. But Zed has been added to the 25-man roster. So it'd be awesome to see him out there.
Yeah, that might be a situation where you bring him over, practice. How do you feel? Do you feel good to go? We'll make a decision type of thing. I'm gonna wait to bet on that game until I know that for sure.
It's a good point.
That swings things a little bit. All right, let's wrap up with the Chaos Cannons here. What are you feeling on this?
I don't know. I think the Cannons are going to get one just because I feel like this is almost week one for the Chaos if they have all of their guys, right? I think that they've had a lot of roster turnover. I think they dropped 4 guys from last week to this week, which is a lot with a 19-man roster. I think the Cannons will figure it out. I think they need to figure out goalie. I'd love to see them try Kirst. I think they played Gittleman last week. He did fine, but I'd like to see Kirst maybe get a shot in cage for the Cannons. I think the Cannons will figure it out, and I am leaning Cannons just because I feel like this is week one for the Chaos.
Yeah. We still don't know exactly how many guys are getting back, though, right?
Yep. It's still TBD.
Yeah, I'm going to wait on that, too. I'm probably going to take the under no matter what, though.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'll wait on that because right now the Cannons money line's plus 100. It's a huge difference, though. If
Josh Byrne and Dane Smith are playing,
if
it's
Josh
a massive
Byrne and Dane Smith roll into that door, man, we got a completely different conversation.
And the kid Frazier, he was on the Bandits team. He's a big piece in their offense.
Frazier too, and the Cannons. Is Brody coming back yet? Like, do we know if he's going to play? Also on faceoffs, I can probably guarantee Falk will get the start this week. Hasn't played since like week 3 of last year.
Cannons, what the Cannons need to do is pick up Cade Van Raphorst, who was released from the the Atlas
yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal with that situation was, either. But I mean, if they can pick up, I don't know how. Is there a waiver order? Is there
here's how the waiver works. You apply for it. You apply for a player. So say you go into the pool and you get cut. Maybe 2 other teams put in for you. It goes in draft order. So
the Cannons were the last place team, so they, I guess, would be, or because they traded their draft, does that not matter? Or
yeah, it all depends. I remember in 2021 there was a conversation about me coming back and possibly playing for the Cannons, but after discussions with the league and stuff, it was like, look, you go into the waiver wire. Other teams are probably going to try to grab you just to deny you from going to the Cannons, and then it's in the order of whatever. So yeah, that's what I know is it goes in order of draft. But who knows?
So if the Cannons could grab Cade, that would be just like a 1-for-1 switch with Rafus and Cade, and it would just even out in terms of what it could have been as a trade. So I think they need to grab.
I also wonder how it plays with the salary cap.
That's a good point. I think the
Cannons have to drop a guy who's.
I think the Cannons are saving a lot of money now that Lyle's not playing.
Touche. So yeah, pick up Cade and give him $60,000.
Yeah, I'm sure they have some money to spare now that Lyle's sitting out this year. But that's the games coming up this weekend. Like you were saying, I'm pumped to have 2 games Friday night. Pumped to have that day game on Saturday at 3 p.m. on ABC. That's just awesome for the sport. We have some great matchups, and just great seeing this lacrosse season roll on from college just right into PLL. It's awesome to see just such high level lacrosse being so accessible at this time of the year is great. It's great for the sport and great for consumers to watch and tune in.
It's also just awesome because, like you said, it used to be. I know, growing up, college lacrosse would end, and then the NBA Finals would be over. And God help you if the Stanley Cup doesn't go 7 games, because then you're like, ugh, baseball till August. Now you got lacrosse, baby.
Love it. Well, That is episode 32. Make sure to tune in weekly to our episodes to get all of the updates in the PLL season. We are your one-stop shop for everything in the world of lacrosse. Great episode, Greg. I'm excited for this weekend. Excited to keep breaking down the PLL season with you.
Yes, and before we leave, I want to give a congratulations to the Bandits winning another NLL championship, and huge shout out to Max Adler, who hit a very rare trifecta. He won an MLL, a PLL, and now an NLL championship. So congratulations to him.
Pretty cool. Make sure if you're listening, subscribe on Apple or Spotify. And if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the TorchPro YouTube channel. And that is episode 32. Shout out Greg, number 32.
Bill!